Hi friends, I am excited to be here with you today to share a new layout for the Shimmerz Paints design team. I am loving the August color kits and am so happy to be sharing this first layout with you that I made using this awesome kit. So I started with the Vibes Before Dawn. So it's a spray, but I put it onto a piece of packaging, like just a little piece of plastic acetate that I had, and used that to kind of blot it onto the background, going top left corner to bottom right corner. And then I set that off to dry, and here I am taking a stencil from Pear Tree Cut Files. It's a bunch of hexagons, and I'm using the Ranger texture paste and just going through kind of overlapping where the color ends on the background, and because I just kind of want it on the area and I want it to hang off of where I have that Before Dawn, because I'm going to be adding another color. So I've got it kind of covering those corners, and then I did set that off to dry for a little while, and then once it was dry I put the stencil back on, and I am adding the Inklings Absolutely Marvelous. So that's a super cute name for this really kind of pretty pink mauve-y color. It's a light mauve pink color, and it's beautiful and has lots of great shimmer and shine. So I did add, so Inklings come dry. It's a dry medium and you add water to it. And so I did that and kind of let that sit for a little while to get nice and thick. And I left it, I didn't add too much water to it because I wanted it to be thick enough to be able to use it with that stencil and not have it bleed through too much. So I did that part and then sat that off again to dry. So this layout, I did have several stages of letting it dry in between. And then the third color from the color kits, the August color kits that I'm using, is the Shimmerz Silver Tongue Devil. So that is, the Shimmerz do come already wet, so you just kind of mix them up and make sure you get all of those great color flakes that are in there mixed in really well. And then I just splattered that on with my paintbrush. I didn't want it to be super neat or super particular. I just kind of wanted it to be messy on the background to add that shimmer. And then I took a little bit more of that Absolutely Marvelous and splattered that on. So while that is sitting off to dry, I took out these fabulous wooden flowers. So these come in the August paper kits. There were beautiful patterned papers, and then some pretty little wooden flowers in there that were designed by the wonderful ladies at Shimmerz. So they are just a plain wooden shapes that do have some etching, some black etching in them. And so I wanted to add some of the colors that coordinate with the color kit, or I wanted to add colors from the color kit, sorry, to make sure it coordinates with the pattern paper. So I added that Absolutely Marvelous, and then now I'm adding the Before Dawn, and I will go and layer on some of the Silver Tongue Devil in the centers of those. First, I did add a little touch of, this is Distress ink, and I'm adding just kind of a lighter shade of pink because I wanted it to go the Absolutely Marvelous. It did soak into those wooden shapes a whole lot, so it wasn't super vivid, and I wanted it to be a little bit pinker just so it matched and coordinated really well with the background. So I added a touch of Distress ink before I added the silver on, and then I'm going to let that sit off and dry. Oh, nope, I'm adding one more layer. I did kind of do black and then silver and then black and then silver, so I did it several times. And I love how they dry in the end. It's not an overwhelming element on the background, but I do love the texture that it adds once I've got my floral spray across there. And then this is just a little air blowing tool that I use with alcohol inks typically, but it worked really well here to kind of spread that ink around and make sure it looked a little more blended. And then I'm going to set that off to dry. And then this was a piece of almost like foam packaging that came. Actually, we got my son a new PlayStation. He worked for it for a whole year, and we just got it, and the PlayStation came wrapped in this great foam like coating that it had, and it had great texture. And I loved that. I thought, oh my gosh, if I put a little ink on that and put it on the background, it would leave some cool patterns. So I did use that on that background to blot some more ink on. And now I'm using, these are beautiful patterned papers from the August paper kits. And I pulled out 3 patterns that I super duper loved. I love that black and white striped with the florals on it, and then the pink stripes, and then that beautiful gray quatrefoil, I think is what it's called. I love that shape. So I thought these were really pretty layered up together. So I just kind of tore those. I am going to use my Tim Holtz edge distressor to rough those edges up just a touch more. And I layered those across the center. I did use my T-square ruler to make sure they were straight as I was adding those on. I've got that all lined up there. And now it's going to be time to layer on my photos. So this layout, I loved the colors of the color kits. And so I pulled out 2 photos that I thought went really well with these colors. So these are 2 pictures actually of Thanksgiving last year. I think it's last year. I've still got to go back and double check that if it was last year or the year before, but I'm pretty sure it was last year. And this is my husband and my mom, and they were cooking, getting all of the things ready for Thanksgiving. My husband is a professional chef, so he loves to be in the cooking process and helping out, and my mom loves to have the help. So he's a great help, and I loved those 2 photos. So the title on my layout is going to end up being The Real MVPs. So they are definitely the most valuable players for any family meal that we have. So that's the layout, or the photos that I chose for this layout, and the sweater that my husband was wearing, and then my mom and her apron just looked super great with the colors of actually these flowers and the embellishments and things. So I thought that was perfect for this layout. So I cut out a whole bunch of those and fussy cut around them off screen. I did not make you watch that because it took a long time, but I do love to fussy cut out flowers. So it's my own little form of therapy there. It's a good therapeutic activity. Mindless and ends up with a great result. So I went ahead and did all of that, got those ready, and then using my T-square ruler here to put down my photos. I think they do end up being a little bit crooked, and I had to go back and redo them again just because I have some texture paste on the background. So my T-square ruler was having a hard time sitting flat to be able to measure. So they were a little crooked. There, I'm going to fix it. And those are offset to the right just a touch because the flowers are going to go to the left, like down that top left corner to the bottom right corner on the left side of the photo. So I did go ahead and pull out some flowers that I had in my stash. These, I cannot remember the name of the collection for the life of me. I have a whole bunch of flowers that when I'm finished with a collection or something that I'm working on, I'll just I'll just take all the flowers that are left and put them in a little box. So I have a box full of all different kinds of collections of flowers. I think these are Maggie Holmes. I just can't remember which collection. So I thought that they coordinated really beautifully with the colors in the color kits, and then also the paper, the flowers that I cut from the patterned paper. So it was kind of a good find there. And the pinks were really good. So the pink it's kind of got a touch of mauve. It's a super beautiful, interesting pink color. And the flowers from the collection, whatever the collection is, they coordinated really beautifully with that color, that shade of pink. So I was able to tie those in. And then the flowers that are a little bit more orange looked really good with my husband's sweater. And then I also actually, some of those smaller orange or orangish color flowers, those are from one of the past paper kits, one of the past Shimmerz paper kits. So I had a few of those left over that I had stuck in that flower box. So I pulled those out because they matched with his sweater perfectly. And then the blacks and the pinks and all the rest of that went with what my mom was wearing. So you can kind of see that it was a good combination. So I am just making, getting those floral clusters. It's really one big cluster. And I just kind of have it continuously going down the page, making sure that the flowers are kind of facing different directions as I go, but really tight together. And then the leaves, I had a bunch of leaves in that flower box. And the color was really good, but they kind of got lost in the background when I was trying to add those with flowers that were very similar in shades and tones. So I just took some Distress Oxide and made them green. So it was pretty easy little step there, but it definitely made a big difference on the background with adding that contrasting green so that they stood out a little bit more. And then these are thickers. They're a great pink, a very perfectly coordinated pink with that absolutely marvelous. So on top of the photo, it's going to say The Real, and then underneath I'm using the white and gold letters from Where to Next that Vicki Boutin just released. So these are also thickers. They're chipboard thickers, and I'm using that collection to spell out MVPs. Or MVP, and then I used an S from the pink set. So that's a saying, if you're not from around here, MVP just stands for Most Valuable Player. So for our Thanksgiving meals, they're definitely, my mom and my husband are definitely the biggest contributors to our meal, to our feast. So I thought that was a sweet way to honor them. And then that little epoxy flare is also from the paper Kitz, the little heart, pink heart. And these are the wooden flowers. They've dried, and so I'm kind of tucking those in. I wanted the black to be sort of evenly dispersed along the cluster of flowers, and then the pinks kind of mixed in as well. So once I had all of that ready, then I went to my box of shiny goodness here and pulled out some pinks and some silver little bits, and then I had some little black crystals as well in my stash left over from a former project. So I pulled those out as well because I thought that would be perfect to have some little shiny black pieces in there. And then my last step is going to be to add some pops of color and liquid pearls. So I have had a perfectly coordinated pink color that matched really well with the pinks in the layout. And then this is a black, what I'm doing right now is a black glitter pop of color. And then the liquid pearls is a silver color. So this layout, it's kind of interesting. I have lots of gold in the flowers, gold foiling in the flowers, and then I have a lot of silver on the background and kind of mixed in, and I loved how all of that looked together. So all of those metallics, and then lots of shiny things. And there are some close-ups so you can see. Love how that turned out. And I hope you enjoyed the process. So here are some still photos of the layout, and I hope you will subscribe and like the video and give me a comment down below. Tell me what you liked. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And I hope you guys have an awesome day and hope you get to create something beautiful today. Bye for now.